Chargers Falcons, next game we're talking about here. Los Angeles Chargers win this one. It was a close game, low-scoring game, 17-13, the final score. Chargers, it feels like anytime it's a close, low-scoring game, they're going to come out on top. It's just what it feels like their
what they do.
DNA is. Los Angeles Chargers, top 5 graded players in this one. Cornerback Tarheeb Still, the rookie, 94.0 grade in this one for 2 interceptions. Safety Derwin James Jr. with a 90.9. Offensive tackle Rashawn Slater, an 88.4. Linebacker Diane Henley, an 83.1. And then safety Tony Jefferson at 83.0. Justin Herbert in this game, 72.8. We'll get into sort of his passing totals and his day through the air in a second. On Atlanta side of things, edge rusher Lorenzo Carter with an 89.6. Cornerback A.J. Terrell with an 84.8. Safety Justin Simmons an 81.8. Cornerback Clark Phillips an 80.4. And then safety D. Alford with a 73.8. Kirk Cousins in this one really struggled. 41.5 overall grade here in this one. I know this is your most disappointing. This is my stat that told the story. We can kind of combine it here. Kirk Cousins. I was about to say Kirk Cousins is holding this team back. I don't know if I am allowed to say that because a rookie is the alternative, right? We don't know. For as much as I love what Michael Penix could be, we don't know if this year's version of Michael Penix right now is actually better than Kirk Cousins. So I can't necessarily say that he is holding them back. But boy, it does not feel like this team is any sort of threat at all whatsoever to make any sort of a playoff run with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. Even if they were to happen to win the NFC South, because the NFC South seems very weak and all over the place this year, I have no faith in them winning in the wild card round and going anywhere beyond that first round of the playoffs, because of the way that Kirk Cousins is playing. He was 24 for 39 in this game, 245 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 4 equal turnover-worthy plays in this one. He so far this season, he has 5 big-time throws and 12 turnover-worthy plays when pressured. When pressured, he's terrible. 5 big-time, 12 turnover-worthy plays. It's a terrible ratio of big-time throws to turnover-worthy plays. Obviously, it's gonna sort of look like that when you're pressured because you don't want to get pressured as a quarterback, but that's bad. That's the most in the NFL. That's the most turnover-worthy plays when pressured in the NFL, as are his 21 turnover-worthy plays overall, both number 1 in the NFL. We're looking at one of Tarheeb Still's interceptions that you and I watched live when we were here in the office. He's throwing an out route against cover 2.
The pick 6, yeah.
But, brother, you don't have the arm for that anymore. I mean, it's just a duck going to the sideline. He can't complete that pass. Especially not against that type of defense. I mean, the corner's literally staring at you. He's waiting for you to throw that pass. Now, sometimes, all right, well, I mean, like, the coverage, it can confuse quarterbacks, and there was a little bit of rotation there. You weren't exactly sure where the coverage was going to be, but it ended up being very clearly cover 2, and even without that, the off-coverage alignment pre-snap, I mean, Cousins has got to be able to see that. He sees that the corner's not looking at the wide receiver, he's looking at him. It's not going to be man coverage, it's off zone, and you're going to throw that out route to the sideline. That was the easiest pick 6 that Tarheeb Still's ever going to have. And that's unfortunately where we're at Kirk Cousins. The high IQ stuff, I think, still exists for him. But he's not nearly as mobile as he used to be, if you want to call it that at all, before the Achilles injury. And if anything, the scripted drives, he can still operate very well, in my opinion. First drive of the game, first drive of the second half, 2-minute drills.
Yep.
Those are the things, 2-minute, 4-minute drills, whatever you want to call them. Those are the drives where I think Kirk Cousins has been his best so far this season. Anything in between, I do not have a lot of faith in him, and very clearly the numbers tell you that he's putting the ball in harm's way a lot more than he is not doing that. So it's been tough to watch Kirk Cousins, and I don't know if Michael Penix is better right now, and it would be very difficult to go to him while you still have the division lead right now over the Buccaneers. But there is a world where we see Michael Penix before the 2024 season is done, and it would be Michael Penix's show moving forward going into 2025.
What's going to happen, to me, I think, because it's going to be tight enough and they're tied with the Bucs now and they have the tiebreaker, is you're going to see Kirk Cousins the rest of the way, good or bad. If they're not mathematically out of it, I don't think you'll see Michael Penix. He's the veteran. He's got the contract. Probably still gives them the best chance to win, but that's getting ugly. I think there is. You mentioned the physical part of it. I remember watching Week 1 against the Steelers, and it was like that. It was like, wow, he can't move, and his arm looks like a 36-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles tear, right? I don't think we see anything any different. And you mentioned the in-betweens on offense. Look, a big part of a Zach Robinson offense that comes from Sean McVay, that comes from Kyle Shanahan, that comes from Mike Shanahan, is we have bootlegs and design rollouts and things that use both sides of the field, right?
Yep.
He's not capable. There's no bootleg in this game. There's a whole part of the playbook, a giant chunk of this playbook at the base of every Shanahan-style offense's playbook that they cannot run. There's hardly any play action in this offense, despite the fact that they have one of the 3 or 4 best backs in football in Bijan Robinson. Mm-hmm. He's limiting them with a lack of mobility. The arm strength, it doesn't look great. That's a fact. Look, my stat that tells a story on both sides, I'll start with the Falcons, is just a lack of explosive plays. And in a 17-13 game, sure, when the biggest touchdown of the game was a pick six, it's obvious, but the Falcons had 5 explosive plays the whole day, but it really wasn't because of Cousins. Even their longest play of the day was a 10-yard out he threw that almost was picked off, and Ray McCloud then took it 60 yards down the field, but 0 for 4 on deep balls. He didn't have a single completion past 12 air yards. Kirk Cousins is living in a bubble right now in the passing game, and so are the Falcons. They can't even use these weapons. Kyle Pitts, another game without a catch. Drake London, all his catches within that 10-yard mark. He should be a vertical guy that we're using downfield, right? Even Bijan can line up on the outside, and you have speed guys like Mooney and Ray, and I mean, he can't do it. If you go to Penix, it's almost the same logic behind going to Russell Wilson over Justin Fields in the fact that, okay, maybe we can just complete passes downfield, and the kid's just more of a threat. There's nothing explosive about this Falcons team because of Cousins. And I hate to say it like that, but we have hit the point now where we just have to accept. And you hope for the full recovery and that he would look good. And you mentioned this, but 2-minute drives, he's won in some games. He's a 36-year-old quarterback off an Achilles tear. And one that never had an A-plus arm in the first place. His weapon was his timing and his IQ. And it's not that he doesn't have those things, but the timing changes when you don't have the arm. So their complete lack of explosiveness in this offense is killing it right now, right? Because at least even take the Bucs, who they're tied with. Okay, it's up and down sometimes, but we know Baker can make all the throws. Just has to not throw it into too many tight windows. With Kirk, every window's tight right now, and it's just this bubble. It feels like you're watching like a Jimmy Garoppolo, where you just go, yeah, there's throws out there he just can't make. And on the other side of that stat tells a story. The Chargers, kind of the same way. They haven't been a real explosive team all year, but only 4 explosive plays for them. They didn't even attempt a deep pass. They didn't even bother taking a shot. They just said, you know what, we'll let Cousins give us this game. I just love the stat, too, and I'm sure you're about to talk about this, is 62.5% of their total yardage went to Ladd McConkey.
Yeah.
It was Ladd McConkey against the Falcons. And somehow
even higher percentage when it comes to the passing.
Yeah, just the passing. I mean, it was Ladd McConkey and the Chargers defense against the Falcons, and it was just about who was less explosive and who was going to make more mistakes, and that was Atlanta. I mean, it's just Cousins.
This game's all about who's going to be less explosive.
Who's going to really? It is. It was literally. This was a game, and I think there's a lot more games like this than we think. And I watch them every week at the college level. Who's just not going to be worse?
Right.
And that was
just funny when you hear somebody say it like that.
And the number of games that Jim Harbaugh won like that at Michigan is crazy. You're just like, hey, they're bad and we're not, so we're going to not be bad with them. That's actually what happened here in this game. And credit to Jesse Minter and the defense. They've done a spectacular job all year, but this is like the turning point game where I start to wonder if Kirk Cousins now we're just over the hill. And the problem is the contract is guaranteed next year. I don't even know what you do next year.
Yeah, I think was it yesterday when we were talking about this? It might have been you, it might have been Max, can't remember who said this, but you were like, the Penix pick ain't looking so bad. It's like, okay, the Penix part of it maybe doesn't look so bad, but you sign a quarterback to a 2-year, almost fully guaranteed $150 million deal. I can't remember exactly what he's getting over the first 2 years. But
2 and $100 is guaranteed.
So 2 and $100 is guaranteed. If I'm going to give you credit for Michael Penix, I ain't giving you credit for that. That's a very expensive way to go about the quarterback position. If it works out for you, it works out for you.
It's entirely possible they have a $50 million backup next year.
Right. And look, is that a good allocation of resources? No. I think everybody would tell you that. But as long as your owner is okay with it and signs off on it and you're not letting major free agents out the door, I guess, who cares, right? especially if you feel like you nail it in Michael Penix Jr. and you got the guy no matter what. So kind of a whirlwind of how we got there. I said this after the draft when they drafted Michael Penix. I don't totally hate the logic. I don't. I understand it.
I love it.
There's a world where this completely works out. I just wish you had a better sort of futuristic scouting of Kirk Cousins before you signed him.
The assumption was, okay, we can get 2 years out of him. They may have only gotten 10 or 11 games out of him.
Right.
Yeah.
And even that, did they really?
If they don't,
or did they really just get the $2 games? Did you pay $100 million just to throw for 900 yards and 7 touchdowns against Todd Bowles' defense?
And here's my split.
Because now they own the tiebreaker against the Bucs.
The two games against the Bucs.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
He's
go
got
ahead.
We need to hear it. The 2 games against the Bucs, he has an 89.4 passing grade. All the other games, it's 62.3. And a 62.3 passing grade is backup caliber stuff.
He's a Todd Bowles merchant.
I think we've seen plenty of those.
He's a Todd Bowles merchant.
Yeah.
My most impressive in this game, well, actually, most disappointing real quick because you talk about the Chargers. My most impressive is just, it's going to sort of sound like praise from McConkey, which I guess it kind of is, but I would like for the passing attack to be a little bit more diverse for the Los Angeles Chargers, one of the best quarterbacks in the game. 16 of Herbert's 12 completions. No, sorry, other way around. 12 of Herbert's 16 completions went to McConkey. 117 of his 147 passing yards went to McConkey. The next best receiver on the team after McConkey's 117 receiving yards was Quentin Johnston with 12. Got to be better than that, folks. Just got to be a lot better than that. So that was my most disappointing. Most impressive is obviously the man who made all the difference in the world. 2 interceptions, 94.3 coverage grade, I will say 82.9 defensive grade overall this season. Sharheep still playing well.
Jim Harbaugh. Dave,
just gets it.
What a draft he's had. I didn't realize, too, Ladd McConkey now leads all rookie wide receivers in yards.
There it is.
After all the talk about Neighbors and Harrison, Odunze, and all the first-round guys right now, and the only rookie ahead of him, of course, is Brock Bowers, which is you wonder why Georgia's offense looks the way it does with down on the college level, with Bowers and McConkey being the top 2 among rookies.
What if teams just drafted good football players?
Georgia's got a lot of them. The Eagles do it all the time. Maybe that's the key.
I'm being facetious, but yes.
I mean,
you're most impressive. Who you got?
How about Derwin James? You mentioned still. I'll take another guy in the secondary. And Derwin James really over the last few weeks playing a lot more in the slot, kind of operating as the Chargers' weak side linebacker, nickel, slot corner type of guy as opposed to a traditional safety. And look, the role's fitting him well. 90.9 overall grade in this game, 86.9 in run defense with 3 stops, a game-winning interception in coverage. 75% of his snaps in this game either in the slot or at linebacker. Derwin James is playing down closer to the line of scrimmage more often than he was earlier in the year. I think it's helping him a lot. He can kind of operate in a similar manner, kind of how sometimes Jalen Ramsey does too. I think that's kind of fitting him better than playing a true free safety. Let the other guys on the team, if you have Alohi Gilman, if you some other guys at safety who play that more traditional role, let them play a deep half. Let Derwin James work down by the line of scrimmage, and that's working for their defense.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.